Do you want to know what happened during the abdication of Napoleon Bonaparte on April 11th, 1814?
And if the resignation of a man marked the beginning of wars that still resonate? On April 11, 1814, an exhausted Napoleon Bonaparte signed his abdication. It was not on an epic battlefield, but in the quiet of Fontainebleau. After years of victories and defeats, the Allies surrounded Paris. His empire, forged in blood and genius, was crumbling. From Emperor France exiled on the small island of Elba, exhausted by 2 decades of conflict, he'd see by his house united. They thought it was the end of an era, but here the butterfly effect was beginning. This defeat was not the end, but a trigger. His exile was a time bomb, setting the stage for the 100 Days. The Congress of Vienna redrew the maps and ignited nationalist fires that would explode for decades. This signature not only changed the throne, it reorganized alliances, sowed seeds of future global conflicts, a single act that defined continents. Can you imagine how this solitary idea still affects us? If you want to know more, subscribe and follow us to stay up to date with historical events.
Did you know that a space mission almost sparked a world war? On April 12, 1961, the world held its breath. Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space. What they didn't tell you is the tense truth behind those 108 minutes. The Cold War was raging, the United States and the USSR in a relentless race. This flight was not just science, it was a demonstration of pure power. One mistake, one explosion, and geopolitics would have changed forever. But Yuri returned and the USSR celebrated a monumental victory. That triumph boosted the space race. The United States doubled its efforts. That small space victory was the butterfly effect that led us to the moon, or perhaps to an even more complex destiny. All because of those 108 minutes that almost sparked a world war. If you want to know more, subscribe and follow us to stay updated on historical events.
What if I told you, the freedom of 1 billion people was born from a massacre in a garden? On April 13, 1919, in Amritsar, India, thousands of unarmed civilians gathered peacefully in Jallianwala Bagh, unaware of a military ban. What followed was no simple crowd control. It was a death trap. General Dyer ordered to open fire. Without warning, no escape. Men, women, children, trapped, murdered in cold blood. Hundreds died, thousands were wounded. A brutal act of oppression. But that massacre ignited a flame. It was the turning point, the spark that transformed a movement into a revolution. Mahatma Gandhi, then little known, found his voice. Non-violence became a weapon. Jallianwala Bagh wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Every day on the calendar hides a secret that changed the world. If you want to discover what happened today in other years, subscribe and don't miss a single day of history. This horror gave new meaning to the fight for soft voice freedom. Subscribe to complete your daily dose of history.
Did you know Abraham Lincoln's assassination might have had an unexpected dark side for reconciliation? April 14th, 1865. A theater, a president, a broken nation on the cusp of reconstruction. John Wilkes Booth, a furious actor, changed history forever. His bullet didn't just kill a man, it killed a vision. Lincoln sought a peace with malice toward none. A reconciliation to heal wounds, not create new ones. But his death unleashed fury. A vengeful Congress took control. Reconstruction hardened, resentment festered. Would Lincoln have averted the Jim Crow era? Could he have forged true equality? His absence left a void, a path filled with decades of segregation. What they didn't tell you is that perhaps history might have been kinder had he lived, or tragically worse in unexpected ways. Every calendar day hides a secret that changed the world. If you want to discover what happened on this day in other years, subscribe and don't miss a single day of history. A single instant can rewrite a nation's destiny, forever altering the course of history and a potential reconciliation. Subscribe to complete your daily dose of history.
Do you know what happened on April 15th, 1912? What if a simple padlock could have prevented the most famous maritime tragedy? April 15th, 1912. The RMS Titanic, the unsinkable, was sinking in the Atlantic. But it wasn't just the iceberg. Did you know the binoculars to spot the ice were under lock and key? The key, forgotten by the second officer in Southampton, sealed the fate of thousands. A tiny detail, a minuscule oversight, unleashed a cataclysm. If the lookout had those binoculars, history would be completely different. This disaster changed maritime regulations, naval designs, and humanity's perception of invincibility. Great tragedies often stem from flaws, from the most insignificant arrogance or carelessness. How many times does a minor error become the spark of a global catastrophe? Every day on the calendar hides a secret that changed the world. If you want to discover what happened today and other years, subscribe and don't miss a single day of history. A simple padlock could have prevented the most famous maritime tragedy. Subscribe to complete your daily dose of history.
Would you believe a single train journey, orchestrated by an enemy, ignited the greatest revolution in history? On April 16, 1917, Vladimir Lenin, exiled in Switzerland, boarded a sealed train. But it wasn't just any trip, it was a secret operation. Funded by the German Empire, their goal, to destabilize Russia. Their enemy in First World War, Lenin arrived in Petrograd, and his speech was a spark that ignited millions in months. The Russian Empire collapsed. The Soviet Union was born, redrawing. The world map. Every day on the calendar hides a secret that changed the world. If you want to discover what happened today and other years, subscribe and don't miss a single day of history. The butterfly effect of that sealed train, the Cold War, the space race, 20th century geopolitics, a legacy that continues to impact US in the present. Subscribe to complete your daily dose of history.
Did you know that on this very day, the promise of liberation became the dawn of hell? On April 17, 1975, Khmer Rouge forces entered Phnom Penh triumphantly. Cambodians believed the war was over. That peace, at last, had arrived. But beneath that facade of victory, horror was brewing. Pol Pot and his Khmer Rouge had a radical vision. They wanted a new Cambodia, agrarian and pure, without cities, without intellectuals, without history. What followed was a brutal purge. Millions were forced into the countryside. Doctors, teachers, monks, all enemies of the people, silenced, executed. The killing fields began to fill. Half the capital's population was evacuated in hours. Entire families shattered by ideology. A genocide largely ignored by the world. Every day on the calendar hides a secret that changed the world. If you want to discover what happened today and other years, subscribe and don't miss a single day of history. And history keeps asking us. Subscribe to complete your daily dose of history.
Did you know an earthquake didn't just devastate a city, but shook the very foundations of global entertainment? On April 18, 1906, San Francisco awoke to hell. A 7.9 magnitude earthquake and subsequent fires reduced the vibrant metropolis to ashes. Over 3,000 lives lost, 80% of the city destroyed. A truly devastating blow. But what few realize is the butterfly effect of this catastrophe. East Coast film companies were already eyeing new horizons. San Francisco in ruins was no longer an option. Eyes turned to sunny Southern California, a place with perfect light and diverse landscapes. The opportunity many saw amidst the rubble was to rebuild, not just structures, but industries. Every day on the calendar hides a secret that changed the world. If you want to discover what happened on this day and other years, subscribe and don't miss a single day of history. Over time, that migration of talent and cameras birthed a giant, Hollywood. A tremor in San Francisco, thousands of miles away, shaped how we consume stories today. From tragedy emerged a new empire of dreams. And the echoes of that April 18th still make us tremble with its history. Subscribe to complete your daily dose of history.